The blood mirror. The shop smelled of dust and secrets. Elise had ducked into the alley to escape the city's noise and drizzle, seeking brief refuge from the ache in her chest that never seemed to quiet. Between two shuttered storefronts crouched a crooked little antique shop, its sign half faded, its windows fogged with time. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of wax and wood polish, and the faint ticking of 100 clocks marked time's disjointed rhythm. Everywhere she looked, there were things that seemed to watch her. Cracked porcelain faces, tarnished candelabras, portraits whose eyes shimmered faintly in the dim light. She was about to leave when something caught her eye. A tall mirror, leaning against the far wall, half concealed beneath a heavy velvet cloth. When she drew back the fabric, she saw herself. And yet, not herself. The glass reflected her face with unnatural clarity. The years erased. The weariness softened. Her eyes gleamed brighter. Her skin luminous. It was the version of herself she used to be. The one who still believed happiness was a thing that could last. An unusual piece, murmured the shopkeeper, appearing beside her soundlessly. His voice was a rasp of paper. They say it shows you not as you are, but as you could be. Elise smiled faintly, embarrassed by her own fascination. But something in her refused to look away. The mirror seemed to hum softly in the silence, as if breathing. She bought it without bargaining. That night, the mirror stood in her bedroom like a silent witness. Rain lashed the windows, whispering against the glass, and the candlelight cast trembling shadows across her walls. Elise stood before it, unable to resist another look. The reflection that stared back was radiant, more vivid than any photograph, more alive than memory. She leaned closer, mesmerized by the softness of her own face, by the way her eyes seemed to glow. And then it happened. She gasped and stumbled backward, her heart thundering like a trapped bird in her chest. The reflection smiled, a small, knowing curve of the lips. But it did not mirror her movement. Her breath hitched as a tremor of disbelief coursed through her. Slowly, impossibly, the figure within the glass began to lift its hand, not in mimicry, but in invitation. The air grew thick, humming with a quiet, unnatural energy that made the hairs on her arms rise. Elise felt drawn forward, helplessly, as though a string bound her heart to the glass. When her trembling fingers finally brushed its surface, she expected cold marble stillness. Instead, the mirror throbbed beneath her touch, soft, alive, pulsing faintly like the heartbeat of some sleeping thing. A warmth spread through her fingertips, up her arm, and into her chest, dizzying, intoxicating, wrong. For a heartbeat, she thought she heard a sigh, deep and low, not from her own lips but from somewhere behind the silver. The sensation was both tender and terrifying, like being recognized by something ancient that had been waiting for her all along. The days that followed were a blur of quiet wonder. Each morning, Elise looked more beautiful. Her skin glowed as if lit from within. Her eyes caught the light like glass marbles. Strangers noticed. Her coworkers commented. Her reflection smiled back with increasing confidence, almost pride. And yet, she began to feel something watching her even when she wasn't near the mirror. Shadows lengthened where they shouldn't. The air around the glass seemed to hum faintly, as if alive with unseen breath. Sometimes, when she pressed her hand to it, she could feel that same pulse. Sometimes, she thought she saw faces, faint, sorrowful, trapped behind her own. She told herself she was imagining it. But she couldn't stop touching the mirror. Then her neighbor vanished. The woman who'd often stopped by for tea, gone, her apartment door left ajar, a half-eaten meal on the table. Elise felt a chill she couldn't explain. That night, she dreamed of the mirror again, of the glass rippling like black water, and something pale moving beneath its surface. When she woke, her reflection looked more beautiful than ever. But her smile was not quite her own. The whispers began soon after. They came from behind the glass, faint as breath. A voice, not quite hers, not quite human, murmuring in the stillness. Another year, another face for yours. Her heart froze. She stared into the mirror, and behind her reflection, a faint silhouette began to form. Translucent, pleading. Her neighbor's eyes, wide and blue, floated just beneath the surface. Elise stumbled back, shaking her head. No, that's not real. But the reflection smiled again, her smile, and lifted a hand in the same quiet invitation as before. She tried to destroy it. She threw it to the floor, shattering the glass into 100 jagged shards. But even then, her reflection stared back, multiplied, fragmented, whispering in a chorus of soft, sorrowful voices. "We gave you beauty," they breathed. "Now give us your years." A single shard drew blood as she touched it. The droplet spread across the surface like ink in water, and the glass pulsed once more, greedily. Her reflection in each fragment smiled as she began to fade, her skin paling, her breath shortening, her youth draining into the silver. Weeks later, the shopkeeper unlocked the door to his antique store. The air inside was colder than usual. He paused when he saw it. The mirror, perfectly intact, resting beneath its velvet cloth. A faint shimmer lingered beneath the surface, the impression of a face too beautiful to be real. He smiled faintly. "Another offering," he murmured. "The glass always remembers." Outside, the rain began to fall again. Soft, rhythmic, endless, just as it had the day Elise first entered the alley. And in the mirror's depths, her reflection stirred, eyes fluttering open, lips curving into that same familiar, haunted smile, waiting for the next soul to lift the cloth.